Some people use plastic cutting boards in the kitchen. Plastics are waterproof, inexpensive, and may be available in different colors, so they can be designated to different uses. On the downside, plastics melt at relatively low heat, plastics crack out as they age and warp, and of course in use plastics get cut up. Especially of interest when plastics get cut up is that microscopic particles of plastic is being removed, especially when cuts are made with serrated blades. These microscopic particles of plastic get swept up with the food and get fried, processed, whatever, and ingested. Now, if you don't especially cherish the thought, and you can see this, that the surface of the cutting board gets dished out and less worn and more texture. This is the original texturing towards the edge where not too many cuts are made, and towards the middle it's worn out and usually dished out or hollowed out. So if you don't especially cherish the thought of ingesting plastic particles, of course you can switch to wood. Wood will also warp and deform and get misshapen. It also gets cut up, but you're ingesting wood particles, maybe not sawdust, but somewhat of that size of particles. Now, to make wooden cutting boards last longer, what I use is oils, hard drying oils such as tung oil here. This is how it's spelled. It has nothing to do with your tongue. It's tung as in, that's the name of a tree that's indigenous to China. Other oils that are of similar type, walnut oil, linseed oil, for example, just to mention a few, and these are hard drying oils. They don't go rancid, they dry into a semi-hard layer. This is a sanded cutting board that I can coat, and this has been sanded and coated 3 times with this tung oil here. Drying oils are different from the frying oils, the non-drying types. The sunflower oil or safflower oil, olive oil, canola oil, coconut oil, those types of oils are non-drying types, and they go rancid and they reek after a while. So this is a drying type of oil, okay? Sanded and unfinished. And this one has 3 coats. The first coat soaks into the wood grain in a few hours. The second coat takes in a few days to soak in, and the third coat took about a week to soak in. As it gets soaked in, different grains of the wood takes in the oil differently. So edge grain soaks it up a little faster, and face grain, patches here or over here where there's a knot there, that gets maybe not puddly, it stays wet longer in different patches here on the cutting board. You can see some of this oil how it dries, and this is not dirt, this is this tung oil being dried on it somewhat unevenly here on the surface, and makes this hard coating on the wood. So let's see a test here how this looks like with a little bit of water. It does not become a duck's back. Let me just get closer. And it's not nearly as waterproof as plastic, but this works. And there, that's how a drop of water or some water looks on this piece of wood. Actually, might as well do the whole cup of water here and just wet the whole thing. You can see that despite the oily coating, the wood does get wet, but you can also see that that water runs off it fairly rapidly. So some of the water does get absorbed, most of it gets shedded. So here is one alternative to make your make your cutting boards last longer. Drying types of oil, no solvents, no varnishes, no chemicals, none of that, just pure tung oil or walnut oil or linseed oil, so some drying types of oil. Okay, so this is one alternative to ingesting plastics, or maybe not microplastics because that's a little different grade, but there you have it.